business case competition. So I just want to start off by thanking our judges who are sitting here in the front row. So I'll introduce them. We have Jeff Dixon from the Victoria Airport Authority. We have Daniela Jubilek from Silk Road Tea. Dr. Tila, he's an independent financial professional. We have Ralph Hienemann from the University of Beijing. And Dr. Knudsen from Rolla Road University. To start, competitors, you have 20 minutes for your presentation, followed by a 5-minute Q&A. We have our volunteer timekeeper sitting right there in the neon. She'll hold up signs showing you how much time you have left. And she'll stop you if you go over the allotted time. For the audience, to start, there's a lot of you in here, and you're sitting in really fun chairs. Unfortunately, these chairs squeak, and when you're all spinning together, it's really loud for the competitors, and it's hard to hear them when they're presenting, and it's distracting for them. So try to sit as still as you can, please. Of course, no questions, commenting, no cell phones. Please don't use your cell phones, don't take photos. Please don't try to talk to the competitors. Of course, no wearing any clothing that represents your university or any other competing universities. And at the end of the presentation, I'll get you to exit through the back door. Please leave quietly, and outside in the hallway, please exit as fast as you can and be as quiet as you can, because there are other presentations going on at the same time. You can applaud and cheer after the Q&A session and not after the presentations, only after the Q&A. And to conclude, you can start when you're ready.
Good afternoon, Ms. Wow, and the Board of Directors of JDC. My name is Heather, and I am part of TSH Consulting. These are my lovely teammates, Sam and Taylor, and we are proud to present to you today a strategy which we feel is going to allow DragonPass to achieve high-flying success. In the globalization era that we live in today, there's a lot of travel that needs to take place, and therefore a huge percentage of transport is airlines. People can connect and communicate and do business across different countries and through different international borders. Now, it's not just the sky experience that matters, it's also what happens on ground at the airports prior to departure. As DragonPass, you have been extremely successful in using the business-to-business market in your airport lounge services through third parties to develop a successful business. What we are here today is allow you to do that and cater to individual consumers and ensure success and continue to become a leader within the airport lounge services industry. The agenda that we'll cover today, we'll start off by talking about what we believe is a major issue affecting your company, and then we'll go into the details surrounding that. We'll then provide to you a recommendation and go through the details of implementation, ending off with risk mitigations and some key takeaways for you to take from our meeting today. Starting off with what we feel is the biggest issue affecting your organization today is essentially how you're going to become this global leader in airports lounge services. And the solution that we found for you today is essentially to adapt and become a cost leader and use a cost differentiation strategy. Moving into the sub-issues, we've identified 3 underlying sub-issues for your organization with regards to becoming a global leader. The first of which is the current reorganization that you have planned has the potential to cause risk to all your already successful business-to-business enterprise that you have within these services. Moving to the details of that, looking at the differences between business-to-business and business-to-customer, you can already see why there's going to be conflicts with regards to the reorganization that you already have planned. With regards to business-to-business, this is very much relationship-based. It's relationships that you built with your suppliers, these third parties through which you're contracting your services through. In terms of the ratio of sales that you see, usually one sale, because it's business, means there's a lot of business coming your way, as opposed to looking at the individual consumer, where you have to make many more transactions to achieve the same gain. Then as well, the type of product, the type of service that you are providing, being very varied when it's business to customer, as opposed to being very homogeneous when it's business to business. And then lastly, looking at customer service, with business to business being very post, as opposed to being very pre with regards to looking at business to customer. So overall, it's to leverage the different organizational areas within this moving forward. Next, looking at our second sub-issue, that it's unclear for your organization, for DragonPass, as how to interact with these individual consumers. So in terms of the entrance that you need in order to interact with them, in order to engage them, in order to begin to use your services and to generate revenues with these individual customers? Well, first of all, you have a lack of experience in this area as you've mainly been business to business using third parties. So it's unsure of the cost, you're unsure of the cost and market sizes around that, as well as you're unsure of the sales requirements that are needed in order to cater to these individual customers. As well with that comes the customer service. As I had mentioned, being business to customer is very much a pre-customer service as opposed to post that you're currently used to. And then, of course, considering the aggressive rollout. So when you're looking at how you're going to and where you're going to enter the market, you've indicated to us whether it's going to be physical storefronts or solely through an online platform, through a website. This is something to consider in terms of your ability to save costs and also your ability to reach a greater audience. So overall, what you need to do moving forward in terms of your entrance to the market is focus on a market strategy that allows you to interact with customers in a way that is cost effective. Then moving on to our last issue is the fact that service quality doesn't necessarily focus with the target that you should be reaching with this business to customer strategy. So looking at your target customer, what your target customer really is someone who doesn't fly business class because they're unwilling to pay for the full service package already. With your operations in Asia as well as Europe, these already have low-cost carriers. Therefore, customers are already using these low-cost carriers like Ryanair, like EasyJet, and they're already looking to get a low-cost flight. But, as I mentioned before, what you have been able to leverage is that service, that extra amenities are provided before takeoff. Therefore, what they're looking to do is leverage buying a low-cost flight, but still gaining extra amenities and at a low cost, which is what you need to be focusing on for this business-to-customer strategy to work. As well as, customers tend to switch airlines frequently because they want to get a lower value flight. So with that, once again, recognizing the cost-driving behavior of the customer. And of course, as I mentioned before, they are interested in some comforts. They want to have food at the airport, they want to have drinks at the airport, and with the services you provide, they get that in that bundle as opposed to buying them extra on their own if they were to come through the service lounge. Also looking further, that they have a view at longer cost savings, so they're always looking to save money. So a service like yourself, where they're able to look at a fee and able to know what's going to cost them to go to the airport lounge, reduces the variability in terms of what they have to factor in if, let's say, they wanted to buy a higher cost flight to be part of that first class lounge experience. And then as well, the people in this category travel widely. So with the broad network that you have, it's a great fit for you in terms of focusing on this customer, in terms of this target customer. So your customer is someone who cares about price and they care about getting where they need to be around the world. So how does this then fit into your operations, looking at this new target customer? Someone who is driven by making purchases dependent on cost. So in terms of how this factors in, right now you've been heavily focused on ensuring quality of your services. And what that means is that's incurred a lot of cost to you. That's incurred cost in yearly visits that you make to ensure that the lounges are providing the services to the quality that you want. What we feel is that this is something that is not necessarily due to what your target customer is, who is a cost-conscious customer. As well as the fact that 200 employees for 700 networks, your competitors are a lot leaner. And this is something that should be recognized that could be a risk for you moving forward. As well as you have to recognize that profit margins in this industry are very low. So therefore, it makes it harder to lower prices if the focus is on service. And then lastly, with the multiple sales centers that you have, it's unnecessary for business to customer. Because really, for business to customer, for the amount of interactions that you need to make, this needs to be through a platform that's easy and accessible and cost effective. So essentially what this is saying is that your business to business operations that you currently have won't easily transfer over to being the business to customer that you want to. So this is a summary of what we have and what is to come. So once again, we want to focus for you on a cost-driven strategy, and that's going to involve restructuring. It's going to involve promotion through online through your website in terms of gaining sales and these individual customers, and it's also going to mean working through your current suppliers. And then lastly, what we've established here for today, working with this new target market, not necessarily someone who's looking at the quality of the service, but is looking at cost and being able to get amenities for a low cost.
So when looking at a low-cost structure, we have 4 key considerations that we believe are extremely important for your company to look at, and when we provide our implementation that we believe you should follow, these 4 considerations played at the top of our minds. First, there's keeping costs low. It's extremely important in an industry like yours that has the low profit margins to have those low costs, and that will help add that differentiability. Next, you've got reaching target consumer. So, as Heather brilliantly labeled there, your consumer is one that isn't necessarily the high class in the business to consumer market. It is someone who is having smaller costs or they're paying less for their flights and they're looking to add those extra benefits. So those are your main consumers. And so that's our implementation, our recommendation will reach that target consumer. Third is continuing to network growth. And so while focusing on these consumers, you still should be able to focus on having more locations, because that is another factor that companies want, employees or customers want. They want to be able to look at you and say, wow, they have 700, 800, 900 different locations that we can go to. This is who I want to partner with, and this is who I want to provide my service. And fourth, there is maintaining strength in the business to business. So that is, along with that, is continuing that network growth location and developing overall. So why not quality? Why are we looking at a cost structure and not at quality structure? Well, again, the costs need to be low. So the extra service costs are much, when you're paying for quality, there are more service costs. People are looking at, you're communicating much more with the different locations, and that's adding cost to you. As well, you're flying right now to those locations, and so there are additional costs. And so one way, which is easily to keep the costs low, is to cut out those, use things like Skype and ways to really connect with the employees. And it's about keeping that quality. Now next, we have keeping those low costs, and those will drive you in the future. So next, with reaching a target consumer, consumers are very price sensitive. So if you have high prices, what's going to happen is they're going to move away. It's like what's happening in America with the high prices of flights. Because those flights are so highly priced, consumers are not willing to spend that extra $40 or $50 to go into a lounge. And so having those, being able to reach the target consumers, if you're focusing on a quality program and the costs are extremely high, you won't be able to reach as many of those consumers, and when moving towards a business-to-consumer situation, that will take away from your market potential. With continuing to have the network growth, limited profitability hinders growth. So again, with quality, as I've been mentioning with the 2 points above, having the low cost gives you less profits, and without those profits, you will be unable to have that more growth, and so it ties in with the fourth of maintaining the strength in the business-to-business relationships, where you won't be able to move into as many locations as fast because you won't have the ability just to look at them and fly to all of them and do all the processes, because you have many processes to make sure that these are great locations and great lounges, and you won't have that ability if those costs are higher and the margins are lower. And so sacrificing customer service levels was what we felt was, you're not necessarily sacrificing them, but you're focusing on low cost, and that's what's going to drive the business-to-consumer market. So overall, the differentiation strategy focused on quality lounge service just doesn't make sense, and the cost structure one does. What is a global organization? Global organization company is innovative, adaptable, international business, all traits of global organizations. Your company right now is reaching thousands, hundreds of thousands of people all over the world. And in order to keep doing that, and right now you're reaching the higher end business executives, and through them you're getting to the lower level employees, and that's how you're getting your market at the moment. Now, what you're trying to do is reach individuals, and to do that, to be a global organization, one that has success, exceeds expectations of its customers. It requires a lot of different steps to be put in place, and right now I'm going to hand it over to my partner Taylor, who's going to talk about those different stages and the implementation that we've gone through today.
All right, so you mentioned to us that you were looking for a 3-year timeline or a 3-year strategy for where you could take Dragon Pass and how you could grow Dragon Pass into this business-to-consumer market. So we're going to start off, and we've basically broken down our implementation plan into things you need to do. We say tomorrow, but it's really sort of in the next week and the next month. The immediate steps you'll want to look to take. Then you have year 1. This is where the bulk of the implementation and rolling out the strategy for reaching that new consumer market is going to take place. Finally, there's year 2 and 3, and during this it's going to be further refining and developing this consumer market, as well as looking to continue expanding your network and continue expanding and providing better service in the business, in your existing business-to-business space. So, to start off with, the first part of year 1 is to look at how you're going to restructure the organization. So, what we've done is we've taken the proposed transitional plan you gave us, and we've really separated it down based on the different business spaces. And the reason we've done this is because all the business spaces require a different skill set from the people in the spaces, and they all leverage different areas of the organization more heavily. Next, after you've done that, looked at this new restructuring plan, you'll need to hire to fill some of the gaps. So most of the hiring will take place, obviously, in the business to consumer, where you don't already have these skills. So the efficient restructuring of the organization will help you to better reach your 2 distinct customer segments. So here's what we have as our proposed corporate structure. So what you have is the business to business as its own department, the business to consumer as its own department, and then you have the unified head office functions in their own space, so that you're able to leverage them through both business groups and get some synergies that way. So separating the management of the 2 segments will help those in charge to better target the customers and help grow the segments individually. So now for the second part of, or for the second 3 quarter, or for the quarters 2, 3, and 4 of year 1, you're going to be looking at how to develop and roll out this business to consumer plan. So this really involves 3 steps. So the first is developing the sales website. So our recommendation is to actually have you conducting these sales online. It doesn't make a lot of sense when you are a global business to be trying to reach your consumers individually how you have been reaching your business-to-business customers. And the reason for this is there's just so many more of them. They're spread all over the world, and it's just inefficient to be reaching these individual sales, these individual low-value sales with a sales representative. So sales will be focused through your website. This will likely be built off of your existing website, and we recommend it's just sort of a portal so you can leverage anyone who might happen to know your name. They type your website in, they can select consumer sales as opposed to business sales, and then they will have access to this website. We recommend to start off with both in Mandarin and English, as this is where the bulk of your current business is taking place. Down the road, this can be expanded further into the other areas where you do business as well. The second part is to develop the marketing materials. Now, we recommend that this is split into 2 steps. So one would be ads on travel websites, and the second would be ads in airports, where you already have your existing lounges and lounge partners. So the ads in airports, we recommend you start off with in the busiest airports around Europe, as well as in Asia, so you can reach the maximum number of travelers. Ideally, these ads would be placed in the existing economy lounges, so where people are everybody who doesn't have access to these premium lounges are sitting to wait for their flight. So they can see, instead of being in this economy lounge, I could be here, I could be getting some free food, getting some free drinks, and having access to some free Wi-Fi as well. The ads online would just be a way to reach people who are looking to travel. So they're on that Expedia.ca looking for the cheap flight, and here they see, here's a cheaper way I can get into the lounge. The third is to develop your service offerings. So we recommend that when you first enter this business-to-consumer space, you offer 2 services. The first would be the basic access plan. This would be similar to your current corporate plan, so it would be $100 as opposed to $120 so that you can stay competitive with Priority Pass. But $100 and then 50% off when you're in the lounge. The all access pass would again be competitive with the existing players, so it would be $400 and it would give you total access to all the lounges. Now I'm going to pass it on to Sam to look at what the implementation would look like down the road.
So in year 2, the real focus is on the expanded networks. So this is both with languages. Right now, as we're going in year 1, just English and Mandarin, but languages like French and German are ones that you can expand, as well as locations looking at Europe and South America as places to grow. So consolidate the new business operations by involving new languages and boosting locational marketing. In year 3, it's expanding networks. And so at this point, we expect that you would have had the business-to-consumer markets penetrated, and so continue to monitor these networks, but also focus on putting resources into finding new partners and new locations. So, and finding these partners appeals to all customer bases. Here's the timeline of what year 1 will look like. Specifically after quarter 1, the reorganization and the hiring will be done, and you'll be able to launch the website and with your marketing by quarter 4. In year 2 and 3, expanding consumers will take 1 year, and then expanding marketing will take another year.
All right, so these are some financial projections we've given you. Long story short, the payback period we see for the initial investment required would be 2 years. We can go more in depth into this later if you'd like. And we've also come up with some risks and mitigations that we can go into in more depth later as well.
What we really want to take away from this presentation today is the fact that being a cost leader is going to be a huge advantage for you moving forward in order to compete with competitors, in order to compete with credit card companies who are currently providing air miles and services for people to relax in airports. What we want to do is we want to achieve high-flying service for user organization and be a leader for airport lounge services. Thank you.
All right, your presentation has been concluded. Judges, you now have 5 minutes for Q&A.
So at any time during your deliberation, you have presented the B2B to B2C as totally distinct, unique programs, and you've explained why. Have you at all considered the possibility, or at what point would you consider the possibility to tell us not to go into the B2C market because they are just so different? How far can you push that difference?
Our understanding when we were going into this is that you'd already made the decision to go into B2C, and you had engaged us only to tell you how best to do this. So from our point of view, your decision was already made and you wanted to do this, so that's where we felt we were taking it. We were trying to look at the best possible way to take you there.
So if I rephrase the question and I remove the caveat, what would your advice be?
We still feel there's a lot of opportunity for you in the B2C market. It's a huge untapped market, and it really only has the one primary player who does this membership style business or membership style service as their primary mode of business.
Following up on that, though, you thoroughly persuaded me that your B2C customer is different from your B2B. And I think you're right. I think you've got all the right issues. That tells me your 700 lounges are the wrong lounges. They're high-featured, expensive lounges. Design works very well for your B2B. If you now you try to bring your new customers in at a price point that they will accept, how do you get the lounges to accept them as customers and leave you any margin at all?
Our strategy moving forward when working with suppliers to help drive down the price, help drive down the cost to sell, is if our B2B customers are already using these lounges, there's already a cost factor into that. So essentially what you're doing is you're helping to spread the cost in the contracts that you have with these suppliers across with your B2B consumers. So essentially with B2B and B2C using the same lounges, you're able to drive down the cost per person who's using these lounges, as well as the fact that when you're looking at the cost, for these B2C customers, their main focus is on getting extra money such as food and drinks. They're not so much focused, and Wi-Fi, they're not so much focused on getting massages or any of the other more luxurious amenities that your B2B customers will potentially have. Therefore, you're helping to spread the cost because they're still using the same lounge.
If you're really successful with growth and there's almost too many customers for the lounges, the airport lounges say we don't want your customers, what do you do?
Certainly. So what we've presented for you here is the way we feel would be best for you to initially enter the market. And doing this, because you're not really sure at this point what this market looks like, what these customers are looking for, is you use these initial offerings to gather feedback from the customers, so you can be able to better tailor their offerings. So you might be able to offer a further discounted membership, for instance, that only gives them access to certain lounges, and that those could be potentially the lower end lounges that you have partnerships with already.
China is not a low-cost country anymore. Are you suggesting to build up this business-to-consumer department in China? And how would you deal with rising costs of labor, inflation, strengthening of the Chinese yuan?
We were recommending that you should build it up online, and so it not only reaches the Chinese market, but it also reaches the other markets, as long as they speak English or Mandarin. It's not necessarily that we believe it is a low cost, like that China is the higher cost, but we felt that because those were your company's two strongest languages, they offered the potential to reach most of the customers, the most customers that you have.
If you block Chinese, sure, how many people do you intend to hire? We now have 200 people. How would you see an increase in headcount necessarily?
How many
How many additional positions would you need to fill?
We thought that you should fill a couple sales positions in the business to consumer, and there you could transfer some employees from the business to business to consumer. As well, we thought you needed 2 employees for data, and so they can do the data collection, and 2 employees for products. They would be the ones working on the website and differentiating the product.
We're gonna have to conclude the 5-minute Q&A there.